A 5-year-old boy claims he's the reincarnation of John Lennon, and every detail he reveals could change what we believe about memory, death, and truth itself. How can a child born decades after Lennon's death know things only John himself could have known? They say when a song ends, the silence is eternal. But what if the silence is only a pause? New York City, 1980. A man steps out of his car. He's carrying records for his fans to sign. 5 bullets tear through the air. The world stops breathing. That man was John Lennon. John Lennon, dead on arrival. But 40 years later, half a world away, in a quiet living room in suburban Minnesota, a 5-year-old boy hums a melody his parents never taught him. He looks up from his toys and says, "Clear as daylight, I'm John Lennon, and I can prove it." At first, his mother laughed. How could a 5-year-old possibly understand who John Lennon was? But then came the details, too specific, too private, too real. He talked about a white piano, exactly the one Lennon played in Imagine. He named streets in London he'd never seen. He remembered a studio smell, a mix of dust, wood, and cigarette smoke. And he described, word for word, the final argument before the gunshots. Before we continue with this true-life reincarnation story, please take a moment to comment below with the city you're watching from. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell to stay updated. For exclusives and other cool perks, you can join the channel. Link is in the description. Share the video with others. Stories like this must be heard. Thank you. Back to the story. Every parent hears strange things from their child, but this wasn't imagination. It was memory. She started writing everything down, then recording every dream, every name, every song he hummed. And soon, the world she thought she knew began to collapse. He told her he missed Yoko. He said he didn't like being called Sean's dad anymore. He asked where his glasses were, and when she asked, "Who are you talking about?" he whispered, "Me." Was this child haunted by old memories? Or was something impossible happening? This is not a story about celebrity. It's not about the Beatles. It's about what happens when life refuses to end, when the human soul finds another microphone. Tonight, we follow a boy who remembers too much, a family caught between science and the supernatural, and a mystery that could change everything we think we know about death. But before we begin, listen carefully, because before this documentary ends, you'll hear evidence that has never been made public. In this investigation, every memory will be tested, every claim examined. Skeptics will dismiss it, believers will swear. It's proof of reincarnation, but one question will drive us from beginning to end. How can a child born decades after Lennon's death know things only John himself could have known? Because maybe the music never stopped. Maybe it just found a new voice. They said he was just a boy, 5 years old. Brown hair, blue eyes, quiet except when he sang. And when he sang, it wasn't a nursery rhyme. It was familiar, too familiar. The melody, fragmented, trembling, unfinished, floated through the hallway of a small house in suburban Ohio. The mother froze mid-step. The father turned down the television because the tune was Real Love, a song never taught to their child, a song John Lennon had written and left unfinished before he died. And the boy, without missing a word, whispered, "I wrote this when I lived in New York. Before that man hurt me, silence, not the kind that calms, the kind that splits the air." The mother's heart dropped. The father asked, "What did you say, buddy?" The boy looked up, his voice steady. "I'm John Lennon, and I can prove it." The room froze. The air seemed to thin. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Inside, reality cracked. He began talking about a white piano, a room filled with sunlight, a woman named Yoko who painted dreams with light. He mentioned Sean, his little boy, and he said he still missed him. The mother searched her phone. Yoko, Sean, John, the piano, the Dakota building. Every name he spoke belonged to a life extinguished decades ago, yet the child told it like he'd just woken from a nap. That night, she recorded him a simple voice memo for proof, for sanity. The tape crackled to life, a tiny voice. A haunting tune, words that didn't belong to a child. Ringo played the riff wrong. Paul changed the chord. George laughed at the verse. Names. Details, jokes no 5-year-old could invent. Each syllable dipped in nostalgia and something else. Grief. When asked where he learned it, he said, "I didn't learn it. I remembered it." Days turned into weeks. More memories spilled out. He described the studio, the flicker of red, lights, the warmth of the wood, the hiss of a tape machine. He recalled the hum of a Leslie speaker, the smell of cigarettes, the echo of laughter. Between takes, we were making something new, something about peace. He was describing Abbey Road, not from pictures, not from documentaries, from inside. He said there was a song unfinished, called Now and Then. He hummed its opening line. An audio engineer later confirmed the notes matched a demo found on Lennon's home tapes. Coincidence? They said, but how many coincidences make a memory? An investigator joined the case, a parapsychologist, a skeptic with a pen and recorder. She asked the boy, "Do you remember the last thing you saw?" He grew quiet. His small hands trembled. His eyes darkened as if replaying something behind them. "Lights," he said. "Flashes. A man running." Yoko screamed. December 8th, 1980. The night Lennon was killed outside the Dakota. He was describing it vividly, as if memory itself refused to die. The family tried to rationalize TV exposure, coincidence, imagination, but the boy mentioned things not public knowledge. He said, "The last thing I told Yoko was I still believe." Later, the widow herself would confirm those were among his final words. To her that night, words never printed in any newspaper. That was the moment the mother began to cry, not from belief but from fear. At school, the boy grew quiet. He didn't fit. He spoke of fame, crowds, and peace protests. Other kids didn't understand. He said, "I used to live where music lived. Now I live here." He began sketching guitars. He drew the Dakota facade, window for window. He labeled the street. 72nd and Central Park West, the teacher asked. "Where did you learn that?" He said, "I remember walking there every morning." Psychologists called it cryptomnesia, a hidden memory resurfacing from something he once saw or heard. But no one could explain how a child in rural Ohio could name obscure details from unreleased Beatles sessions or melodies never broadcast. A music historian was brought in. They played the boys humming beside the archived demo. Perfect. Match in rhythm and phrasing. The expert whispered, "This is impossible," and still, the boy's certainty never faltered. "I died before," he said one night. "I remember it all." He remembered the hotel rooms, the letters, the loneliness behind the fame. He said fame was like a glass cage. He said he wanted another chance to finish the song. His mother whispered through tears, "Then maybe you came back for that." For every answer, more questions rose. Could memory transcend death? Could genius echo through time? Or was this child's mind replaying an imprint of a world he never lived? The scientist in us doubts. The spirit in us wants to believe because the human heart needs continuity. We need stories that bridge endings and beginnings, and sometimes a 5-year-old carries both. In his small bedroom sits a toy piano. He plays the same melody every night, one that stops midway, unresolved, unfinished, and then he says softly, "I'll finish it this time." The mother listens through the door, her face pale, her heart full, because deep down she knows the world is hearing John Lennon's final song from the hands of a child who shouldn't remember. The dead don't always stay silent. Sometimes they find new voices and sing again. He wakes in the middle of the night, trembling, sweat beads on his small forehead. His mother rushes in, expecting a nightmare, but what comes out of his mouth freezes her blood. "I was shot." Outside a building, people screamed. Then everything went quiet. She stares at him. He's 5, he shouldn't. No words like shot. He shouldn't describe blood on pavement. He shouldn't say "I was John Lennon." And yet he does, calmly, like he's done this before. The next morning he draws it, a man with long hair, brown glasses, a crowd, a flash, a fall. "That's me." He says, "That's when it ended." The mother can't speak. The father, skeptical, laughs it off until the boy begins humming, a melody no one taught him, a song the father, an old Beatles fan, recognizes instantly. Instant karma. He whispers, but the boy isn't done. He switches tunes. This one different, unfinished. It doesn't exist on any record. The boy stops halfway. "I never got to finish that one," he says softly. A chill runs through the parents. They search for it. No trace, but a Beatles archivist would later admit John had once worked on a lost melody, cut short in early 1980. Coincidence or memory? Days pass, the boy begins using strange words, British slang his parents never use. He calls his mother love. He signs his schoolwork JL. The boy begins to speak with an accent he's never heard. He grows obsessed with a name. "Yoko, where's Yoko?" he asks one night. "She was there when I left." The mother searches online, finds the name, finds him. Her hand trembles as she scrolls through old photos of Lennon and Yoko Ono. The resemblance, the phrasing, the voice. Could her child truly remember? A love story that ended before he was even born? One morning, the boy walks into the living room. On TV, a documentary about the Beatles. He stops, frozen. "That's me," he points, but younger. The clip, 1964, John Lennon laughing during a press interview. The mother stares. Her child mimics the exact laugh. Same rhythm, same smirk. She records it on her phone. The video goes viral. Skeptics call it mimicry. Others call it proof. The parents decide to test him. They show him a photo of Liverpool old cobbled streets. The boy's eyes widen. "That's where we lived, behind the brick wall, near Penny Lane." He describes a red door, a narrow hallway, and a small garden. Every detail matches John Lennon's childhood home at 251 Menlove Avenue, known as Mendips. The boy couldn't have known this, not unless he'd been there. So the parents do something unthinkable. They fly to England, Liverpool, to the place the boy says he remembers the year. Moment their cab stops on Menlove Avenue. The boy bolts forward. No hesitation. He runs ahead, weaving through tourists, his parents chasing behind. He stops at a particular house, number 251, white trim. Iron gate, the home where Lennon grew up. "This is it," he whispers. "This is where I wrote my first song." The guide stares, stunned. The boy had led them there without help, without maps, without hesitation. Inside, he knows where everything is. The piano in the corner, the old radio by the window, the kitchen layout, even the sound of the floorboards creaking near the stairs. The mother breaks down. She can't explain what's happening. She only knows her son feels like someone else. Weeks later, the family meets a child psychologist specializing in past life recall. The session is filmed. The boy is calm, confident, not seeking attention. "When did you become John Lennon?" The doctor asks. "I didn't become him," the boy replies. "I was him. Then I wasn't." A silence hangs heavy in the room. The psychologist presents him with photographs, some real, some fabricated. The boy identifies every authentic one instantly, then stops at one. A candid image of John Lennon taken in 1969, during the height of the Beatles' internal conflict. He touches the photo gently, eyes welling up. "That was the day I decided to leave the band." The camera catches the goosebumps on his mother's arm. He turns away, as if hearing echoes only he can perceive. "I just wanted peace," he murmurs. "All I ever wanted was peace." Then comes the night of the dream, the one that would terrify even the skeptics. He dreams of standing outside a tall building, flashes, panic, then darkness. He wakes screaming. "The Dakota," he shouts. "He was waiting for me." The Dakota building, the real site where John Lennon was shot in 1980. The boy had never seen it, never heard its name, yet he described the exact facade. The ornate stonework, the heavy doors, even the light pattern in the lobby. Verified. Every detail. Correct. Experts are called in. Psychologists, parapsychologists, even a Beatles historian. They test him under controlled conditions. Different photos, different eras. Each time, he chooses the right one. But the final test changes everything. They play a recording of a long-lost Lennon demo, recently rediscovered, unreleased to the public. The boy closes his eyes. "I remember this," he says. "We wrote it after the argument." The experts exchange glances. There was indeed a studio note referencing the argument. Lennon's clash with Paul in early 1969. The escalation peaks. Emotion floods the story. A mother, torn between science and faith. A father, refusing to believe but unable to deny. A boy trapped between two worlds, his own and one that ended in gunfire decades ago. "I miss my band," he whispers one night. "I miss the music." The psychologist runs every test again. Voice analysis, cognitive recall, imagination scores. Nothing explains it. The results are inconclusive. Science cannot disprove him, but it cannot explain him either. If this boy isn't remembering, then what is he doing? Where do these details come from? And if consciousness can survive death, how many of us are living echoes of someone else's unfinished story? The camera fades on the boy, humming a tune that once existed only in Lennon's head. A melody. Half remembered, half forgotten, the same melody playing across generations. And for the first time, you start to wonder, what if he really is John Lennon reborn? Stay tuned, because the next revelation will make even skeptics question everything they believe about life, death, and the mystery in between. He said it quietly, almost like a confession. The tapes under the floorboards. The same room where we did it in 70. At first, no one reacts. They just stare. Because how could a 5-year-old boy in modern-day Ohio possibly know about a lost John Lennon demo? Something even music historians can't fully trace? The mother thinks he's repeating something he's heard until he mentions a place she's never told him, about a name he shouldn't know. Tittenhurst Park. Pause. A location burned into Beatles history. The mansion Lennon bought after leaving London, where Imagine began, where the dream ended, and where, according to old records, a studio engineer once reported a missing demo reel. logged but never recovered. The boy continues, I left it there after we fought. I heard the hammers the next day. They were breaking the floor. His hands tremble. He doesn't understand why the memory hurts. Only that it does. He looks down, voice breaking. I can still hear the piano, and just like that, the temperature in the room seems to drop. The mother's face turns pale. The father whispers, almost to himself, he's never even seen that place, because what happens next makes this story go from strange to unexplainable. The mother emails a British historian specializing in the Beatles' recording sessions. He replies within hours. That's impossible, he writes. Only 3 people knew about that damaged section of the studio. Lennon, the engineer, and Yoko. Curiosity turns to obsession. The family flies to England. They drive down the narrow lane leading to Tittenhurst. It's quiet, overgrown. The gates creak open, as if time itself sighs, and the boy, this small, freckled child, goes rigid. His eyes dart from the old fountain to the stone steps. The apple tree was right there. He says, we filmed the white piano inside. He's right. Every single detail, placement, distance, even the slope of the garden is exact. It's like he's walking through his own memory in another man's skin. But here's where it gets really strange. Inside the old studio, now restored by private owners, the boy points at a corner. There, that's where the song stopped. The curator frowns. He checks his notes. Then his eyes widen. That's where the tape machine stood. The one with the missing reel. The boy's claim matches an official inventory log from 1970, a reel marked unfinished, labeled simply, Child Song. And for a second, no one breathes, because that title isn't public. It never was. The researcher says quietly, if that tape exists, it's not just proof of memory. It's proof of continuity. But the child starts to cry. He covers his ears. Why do people cry when I sing that song? The parents kneel beside him, confused and frightened. He's not acting. He's grieving for something or someone he's never met. Tension shifts from curiosity to compassion. The mystery is no longer about what he knows. It's about what he feels. The psychologist observing the session notes an anomaly. When the boy hums, his phrasing, his breathing, matches Lennon's 1971 recordings almost perfectly. Even his pauses fall at the same rhythmic intervals. Impossible. Precision for a child who's never studied music. He hums. Again, a melody no one recognizes. Simple, soft, haunting. Later, when compared to archived studio notes, it matches the written description of an unfinished Lennon composition titled Memory of the Sun, a song believed lost after the floor repairs of 1970. In that moment, what began as a sweet mystery became something else entirely. A reckoning between science and soul. Escalation rises. Experts argue. Skeptics dissect every recording, every phrase, every gesture. They look for signs of parental influence, coincidence, manipulation. But the data refuses to bend. Each verification only deepens the puzzle. The boy begins drawing. A studio floor plan, accurate down to the missing wall panel. He sketches faces too, men with beards, round glasses, long hair, and one signature, Paul. The researcher's jaw tightens because the handwriting isn't random. It mirrors Lennon's lowercase p, a style most adults wouldn't notice, but forensic analysts do. A linguistics expert runs his speech patterns through an AI comparison test. The child's phrasing frequency, in pauses and lexical choices, align statistically closer to John Lennon's interviews than to modern child speech. Not perfect, but unnervingly close. And still, the boy keeps asking the same question. Why does everyone cry when I sing that song? His mother can't answer. His father can't either, because deep down, they're starting to believe what they're afraid to say aloud. Escalation peaks when the child sits at a piano in their hotel lobby. He presses a few keys, uncertain. Then his fingers begin to move on their own. A half-remembered tune fills the room. Melancholic, familiar, unfinished. Guests stop. One woman covers her mouth and whispers, "That's him." But here's the kicker. When audio engineers later analyze the footage, they find that the melody follows the same chord progression as an unpublished Lennon demo, referenced in an old EMI memo but never recorded publicly. That memo, dated February 1970, describes it as an untitled lullaby written for Sean. Yet Sean Lennon wasn't born until 1975. The implication hits hard. Could it be that Lennon had envisioned his own child long before he met him, and that melody, lost in time, found its way back through another? Tension tightens, curiosity sharpens. Every viewer leans in now, because this isn't just about reincarnation anymore. It's about continuity of consciousness, legacy, looping through time, emotion surviving death. And the boy, he's just sitting there, still humming, still lost between two worlds, eyes far away, as if listening to something we can't hear. If that tape is real, it's not a song from the past. It's an echo, a message carried forward by memory itself. Then silence. The child looks up and says, "He's not gone. He just started over." The house was quiet now. No reporters outside, no music playing, just silence, heavy, suffocating silence. The boy hadn't spoken in days. He sat by the window, staring out as if waiting for someone he once knew, a life he once lived. The mother paced the hallway, clutching the letter, the one from the skeptic. It wasn't just criticism, it was an accusation, a claim that they'd fabricated it, or that it was a desperate stunt for fame. She knew it wasn't, but when the world starts shouting louder than your own child, doubt begins to whisper. The interviews had gone viral, clips of the boy saying, "I'm John Lennon. I can prove it," shared across morning talk shows, podcasts, late-night satire. Everyone had an opinion. Few had compassion. One panelist laughed, another called it child manipulation, and one skeptic, a neuroscientist from Oxford, went further, calling it a psychological echo of cultural exposure. But how could a 5-year-old know the unpublished lyrics Lennon had written weeks before his death? Lyrics found only in Yoko's private archives? That was the question nobody wanted to touch, because it didn't fit the script. The boy's voice, once confident, began to fade. His mother found him whispering one night, not to her, but to someone unseen. "I didn't want them to find me again," he said softly. Then silence. Days later, during a televised interview, the skeptic confronted them. Live. Cameras rolling, the boy on his mother's lap. The scientist leaned forward. "Tell me," he said, "how do you know you were John Lennon?" The boy didn't answer. His eyes darted away, searching for something behind the lights. Then he whispered, "Because I never got to finish my song." The room fell still. The producer froze. The scientist blinked, unsure if it was rehearsed or hauntingly real. "What song?" he asked. The boy's hand trembled as he traced invisible notes in the air, "The one I started before it happened." A studio technician would later swear he heard a faint chord hum through the speakers, though no mic was on. After the interview, the headlines exploded again. Child reincarnation hoax. Psychologist debunks Lennon boy. But none of them mentioned the note found later that week. tucked behind the family piano, written in childish handwriting. "Don't let them stop the music." The mother's hands shook as she read it, because that phrase, word for word, had been found scribbled in Lennon's final notebook in 1980, unreleased, unpublished, unseen by the public. How could he have known? But here's where it gets even more disturbing. When skeptics demanded proof, the mother agreed to a test, a controlled memory experiment. Objects from Lennon's life, photos, instruments, personal items, all mixed with unrelated artifacts. The boy walked past them slowly, ignored most, stopped at a battered pair of wire-rimmed glasses, and whispered, "They never fit right." I hated them. Every camera froze, because the glasses didn't fit. They were Lennon's, warped slightly from the crash that killed him. The test supervisor called it coincidence. The psychologist called it projection. But the silence in that lab said otherwise. Still, fame comes with a price. The boy withdrew completely after that, stopped singing, stopped speaking, stopped dreaming. His mother said it was like watching him fade back into someone else. And one night, as she tucked him into bed, he said something that tore through her soul. I remember now the last sound I heard. It was the world going quiet. That was the moment belief broke, not because she doubted him, but because she feared what remembering could take away. Now, years later, she still keeps that old tape recorder, the one the boy asked her to buy. On the tape, a faint melody hums, a few broken lyrics, and a line that no one, not even hardcore Beatles historians, could trace. "I'll see you in another song." The experts analyzed the voice. It wasn't the boy's, and it wasn't Lennon's either. It was something in between, a frequency mismatch. The report said, unexplainable, but the mother didn't need an explanation. She only asked one question. What if souls don't die? What if they just keep trying to finish the song? The night it happened, no one expected it to be quiet. Not after all the noise, not after the interviews, the disbelief, the exhaustion. But that night, the house was still. Only the soft hum of a toy piano broke the silence. A simple, trembling melody, unfinished. The mother froze in the doorway. The boy sat in the dark, his fingers moving carefully across the tiny keys, as if afraid. That sound itself could break the spell. She didn't look up when she whispered his name. He just kept playing, note after note, like a memory trying to find its way home. She recorded it not because she thought anyone would believe her, but because something inside her told her this mattered. Days later, the file found its way to an old friend, a Beatles historian, someone who had spent years cataloging every known Lennon demo, every studio fragment, every unlisted tape. He listened once, then again. Then he called back. His voice was shaking. This progression. He said, "I've heard it before." The mother didn't understand. He continued, "There's a tape, a lost demo, never released. Just Lennon, a piano, and a single line he never finished." He pulled the reel from his archive. One of the last studio sessions at the Dakota Building. 1980, the tape hissed, a faint voice. Lennon's, counting quietly. 1, 2, 3. Then the same melody, the same rhythm. A match. It wasn't identical, it wasn't perfect, but it was unmistakably connected. Two recordings, decades apart. One by a man who died in 1980, the other by a 5-year-old who shouldn't have known it. Existed experts were called in, audio engineers, compared the waveforms, the structure, the chord intervals, the phrasing, eerily similar. Still, no one wanted to say it, not out loud. Could a child, born in a new century, remember music that never reached the world? When journalists pressed him, the historian said quietly, "Music isn't owned by time. Sometimes it waits for the right voice to return, but the boy wasn't the same after that. He didn't talk about being John Lennon anymore, didn't mention the Dakota, or the crowds, or the lights. He just said, "I finished it," then smiled softly. The mother uploaded the recording under no name, no title. Just the sound of a child humming an unfinished song. Within hours, the internet found it, and the storm began again. AI-generated coincidence proof. The debates burned across forums and news outlets. Skeptics tore it apart. Believers built shrines around it. But no one could explain why that melody, hidden for 40 years, had found its way through a child who had never heard it. And maybe that's what made it real, not the data, not the evidence, the feeling. Because when people listened, they didn't just hear a child playing. They heard something familiar, something that felt like remembering. The escalation peaks here. The line between memory and miracle vanishes. The mother watches. Him in the living room, head bowed over the toy piano. He presses the same 3 notes again and again, then whispers, "I just didn't want it to end." Tears fall silently onto the keys. She kneels beside him. "Did it hurt back then?" she asks. He looks at her, a moment of deep, impossible age in his eyes. "No," he says. "It was just quiet." Now, the final payoff begins. A filmmaker overlays the boy's melody with the lost Lennon demo. 2 voices, separated by lifetimes, blend in haunting harmony. The transition is seamless. Lennon's voice fades in. The boy's voice fades out. And for a single, breathless moment, the 2 become one. It doesn't prove reincarnation. It doesn't solve the mystery. But it feels like closure, a circle, complete, a song finally finished. The final emotional beat lands softly. Whether he's John Lennon or just a soul that echoes him, one truth remains. His song didn't die. Maybe some voices are too loud for silence. Maybe memory is just another form of music, one that never stops playing. And maybe, just maybe, some songs aren't meant to end. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most people stop here, but what happens next is insane. This next part might sound obvious, but almost no one actually does. The boy's revelations didn't end with the melodies. They deepened into something colder, more personal. He started describing dreams that weren't his, dreams of a cold English winter, a boy alone in a house with his ain't no parents around. He spoke of a mother who left too soon, father who sailed away, details that mirrored Lennon's childhood, abandoned by his father at 5, his mother killed in a car accident when he was 17. The boy wept as he recounted it. "I missed her every day," he said, "but I sang to forget." His parents listened, hearts pounding. How could he know? Lennon rarely spoke publicly about the pain, only in private letters, sealed away. Yet the child pulled it out like a fresh wound. The family dug deeper, contacted biographers. One, who had access to Lennon's unpublished journals, confirmed the boy's words, word for word. A chill settled in. This wasn't just music, this was pain, carried forward, unresolved. The mother held him close that night, whispered, "It's okay now," but he shook his head. "It's not finished. The song isn't finished." Tension built like a storm. The boy began avoiding mirrors, said he didn't recognize the face staring back. Too young, too small. "I had hair like this," he said, tugging at his locks, but longer, and glasses that pinched. One day, he found an old pair in a drawer, put them on, smiled sadly. "These are mine." The father snapped a photo, later, side by side with Lennon's iconic look. The resemblance sent shivers, not physical, but in the eyes, that knowing gaze. Skeptics online dismissed it. Kids play dress up, but the family Knew it wasn't play, it was recognition, the parapsychologist. Returned, brought hypnosis tools, gentle sessions to probe deeper. Under trance, the boy spoke in fragments of bed-ins for peace, of strawberry fields, of a bed shared with Yoko in Amsterdam, details from 1969, the white sheets, the signs saying hair peace, bed peace. He giggled like Lennon did in old footage, then grew serious. We wanted to stop the war, but the world laughed. The session tape leaked somehow, went viral. Believers flocked, sent letters, asked for blessings. The boy read them, smiled, said, "Tell them to imagine, just imagine." But the pressure mounted. Nights became restless. He woke screaming about flashes, about a man with a gun, Mark. He said his name was Mark David Chapman, the assassin's name, never mentioned in family conversations. The mother researched, confirmed. Her blood ran cold. How? The boy clutched his chest. It hurt. Here, 4 times. Then quiet medical reports from 1980. 4 bullets to the back, 1 through the heart. Exact. The father broke, wept. In the kitchen, this can't be real, but it was unfolding layer by layer. The historian called again, found something new and old. Interview transcript. Lennon talking about reincarnation, half joking, said he'd come back as a musician to finish what he started. The boy nodded when told, "That's why I'm here, to sing." Again, many revelations piled up like notes in a symphony, each one pulling you deeper into the unknown. The family visited New York, the Dakota. The boy froze at the entrance. This is where it ended. He pointed to the spot right there, the pavement. Tour guides confirmed exact location. He knelt, touched the ground, whispered, "I'm sorry for what?" His mother asked, "For leaving too soon." Tears streamed, not child tears, deep, soulful grief. Passers-by stopped, felt it, the air thick with something unspoken. Back home, the boy asked for a guitar, toy one at first, strummed awkwardly, but the chords came. "Hey Jude?" Bits of it, then twisted into something new. "I was writing this," he said, before audio experts analyzed, matched Lennon's style, finger-picking. Pattern? Unique, unteachable to a child. The web buzzed. Forums dissected. Some said hoax, others said miracle. The family shielded him. No more interviews, but the story grew. Books, written podcasts dedicated, and the boy, he kept humming, kept remembering. One evening, he sat outside, watched the sunset, said, "I wrote about this, the sun, the light." His mother recalled, "Here Comes the Sun," George's song, but Lennon inspired it. During a walk in the garden, the boy described that walk. The grass wet, the birds singing. Exact date, April 1969. Verified in diaries. Mind-blowing. How far could this go? The psychologist warned, memories can overwhelm, but the boy pressed on. "I need to tell it all before it fades." Fades. Like last time, tension coiled tighter. What if this was temporary? A bridge between lives, closing soon. The mother recorded everything. Hours of tapes, names, dates. Lyrics. One stood out, a line about a walrus. "I am the walrus," but he added, "No." Paul was inside joke from 1967, Glass Onion. Lennon's lyric teasing fans. The boy laughed. We fooled them all. His laugh echoed old recordings, chilling. The father listened, believed. Now fully, this is real, but why him? Why our son? The boy shrugged. Music chooses. Souls choose. Escalation. Built to a peak no one saw coming. A letter arrived from Sean. Lennon, private, he'd heard, wanted to meet the family. Hesitated, but went in a quiet. Sean sat across. The boy looked up. Dad. Sean froze, tears. The boy hummed a lullaby, one Sean remembered. From childhood, John sang it to me. Before bed, never recorded, private. Sean nodded. That's it. How? The boy smiled. I remember you, little one. Emotion crashed, waves of it. Sean hugged him, whispered, if it's you, welcome back. The meeting stayed secret, but changed everything for the family. Proof wasn't needed anymore. Feeling was. Back home, the boy grew quieter. The memories slowed, like a tape winding down. He played less, sang less, said, it's almost done, done. The song one last night, he sat at the piano, played fully, a complete melody. Beautiful, haunting, his. Mother recorded, sent to experts, it completed now and then. The Beatles' last song, released in 2023, but the boy's version had extra lines, lost verses, matching old notes, mind-blowing. The final piece, he smiled after finished, slept. Peacefully next day, normal child again. No more memories, no more John, but the tapes remained. The evidence, the echo. Years passed, the mother shared. Bits carefully the world wondered, debated, but deep down felt the truth souls don't end. They reprise, and in that boy's quiet life now, a song plays on unheard, but eternal. The central question lingers. What if death isn't the end? What if it's just an intermission? For some, the music returns stronger in unexpected voices. This story isn't over. It echoes in every note, every memory waiting to be heard. Imagine. That just imagine, but wait, there's more. One final whisper from the boy. Years later, he picked up a guitar, strummed, smiled, said, nothing. But the tune, familiar, the world listened and wondered anew, the silence broken again. Child's voice claiming the impossible. Tension rises with each detail, closure in melody. Yet the question remains open. What happens next? In your mind, the story lives on, chilling, revealing, eternal. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Stay connected to the channel for daily true reincarnation stories.